people. It's Katrina from Different Drummer Dance here, and I wanted to come at you and share this series of posts that I did on my Instagram and also in a Facebook post because they got a lot of attention. I got a lot of comments and started some really great conversations by sharing these. So I know we've all had these types of conversations before, right? These awkward conversations with probably studio parents, or even if you're in a different area of the arts than dance, people like to question our prices. Well, that's actually a universal thing across all different sorts of disciplines and industries. But I wanted to share my top tips for what to say to have these awkward conversations. So, what to say when parents want a discount at your studio, or when they express some sort of resistance about paying your prices, especially right now during COVID and during the pandemic. So many of us are doing either online classes still, we're doing virtual dance classes, or maybe we've moved to hybrid classes. And a common argument from parents is that the experience just isn't the same. And therefore they want a discount or they want a price change. So here's exactly how you can eliminate some of the stress and awkwardness from those conversations, stand up for yourself and still get paid, and also feel good about standing up for yourself, because I know this can be a hit to our confidence and make us feel like we're not valuable, or the services that we're offering aren't valuable, which is not the case at all. So I want to empower you to stand up for yourself, feel good, make, the conversation a little bit less tense and painful, and also get paid. So here we go. Let's dive in. What to say when a parent wants a discount. Okay, so like I just said, no one likes these conversations, right? But you can take the edge off by approaching the conversation with two different strategies. And I'm going to give you like 4 different prompts that you can use to have these conversations. One element that you want to bring to the conversation is education, and the other one is to challenge the other person's beliefs. And there is absolutely a way to do this kindly and non-confrontationally, because I know the majority of us probably don't like confrontation and it makes us feel uncomfortable. Okay, so first talking point, educate. So you want to remind the parent of the value of your services, right? So that might be something like breaking down your prices, breaking down, the week by week or the month by month, year by year. Also maybe educating and giving them some perspective on the total cost of running your studio altogether, right? Because there's so many hidden fees and so many things that other people just aren't aware of when it comes to running a studio or running classes. And I know sometimes we hear this phrase that's on the screen, right? They say something like, oh, it's just dance class. It's my coffee pot. Don't worry. They say something like, oh, it's just dance. It's not a big deal. We'll come back in a month, or we'll try again next year, right? And that phrase just makes us cringe, because it can be really hurtful about saying it's just dance, because we put so much into what we do. So here's how I counter that. I make an analogy and I say, well, saying it's just dance is like saying the Sistine Chapel is just paint. There's so much more that goes into it than meets the eye. And that's where the education piece comes in. So it's up to you as the studio owner or the director, lead teacher, to educate and say, you know what, here's all of the things that go on behind the scenes that really, really drive up the value of the product or the service that you're offering. And again, it just comes down to education. I want to say that 95% of the time, people don't mean to be confrontational or attack you or question your value as a teacher. They just don't know. So it's up to us to educate them. Okay, now let's try a challenging technique. So this is a technique that I learned in therapy, which everybody should should participate in, I feel like. So it's called the double bind technique, and you use it not to be manipulative, right? We don't want to use this to be manipulative, but to kind of challenge the other person's perspective and again, educate them on a different point of view. So here's how it works. If you're having a conversation with a dance parent, and they say something like, well, it's just not working for us right now, and Julie doesn't really seem interested. So you can use the double bind technique like this and say something like, I know that you really want the best dance education possible for Julie, Because then how's the other person going to respond and say, well, no, actually, I don't care. I don't care about the best experience for Julie, right? No parent, no guardian is going to respond that way. And it also puts the ball back in their court. And you can also use this as an opportunity to continue the education about why your studio or why your classes are the best dance experience possible for Julie. All right, we're back to another education point. So, this is a really important one, especially if you're hearing things like, well, virtual classes just don't work for us, or it's not the same experience. We're not getting, that one on one time or that group setting that's so important, which is a valid point, right? And all of us teachers know that it's actually more work to do virtual classes than it is in person, right? But here's a really great thing to point out is that your education, experience, your efforts, the time that you put in and the care that you give, none of that has changed. So why would the price change? Like I said, if anything, you're doing more and they're getting even more for the same value. And again, it goes back to just educating and breaking down your costs, your time, expenses, and pointing out all of the things that make your classes and your studio so worthwhile and such an important investment for the child's, for the dancer's well-being. All right, another challenge point. So if somebody comes at you and says, no, well, you're too expensive. Okay, so challenge that by saying, well, really, compared to what or whom? Like, where else have you been looking? Right? And here's another pointer here. After you say that, after you ask, well, compared to what? Like, where else are you looking? Be quiet. Resist the urge to just keep talking and explaining and backing yourself up and defending yourself. Just put the ball back in their court, ask them the question, and then let it be. Because 9 times out of 10, they probably haven't actually looked or researched into another studio. They're just kind of pushing the buttons and testing the waters to see how you're going to react. So this is you holding your line and creating a boundary and asking, okay, well, where have you looked? And if they actually have done research and they have other places that they're looking into, there is another opportunity for you to educate and for you to say, okay, I understand that, but this studio that you're looking at actually focuses more on XYZ. Whereas our studio here, we're more focused on XYZ. So you're educating again, and that gives you another opportunity to really, to pat your studio and yourself on the back and really communicate and show all the amazing things that you do in your classes in your studio. Okay, so those are the conversation pointers, and I want to wrap up by pointing out that when you stand up for yourself and your prices, you're really standing up for dance teachers everywhere, right? I know as dancers and as people in the arts community, it can be really hard to stand up for our prices. And there's such a culture in the arts community of downplaying our worth and, giving discounts and not charging for our work or feeling bad about charging for our work. And frankly, that's bullshit, which I'll go into more in just a moment. But I want you to think about, another dance teacher who you really admire or another studio that you really admire. So when you stand up for yourself and when you're confident in your prices and your value and what you're offering, your contribution to the community, you're also allowing a dance studio down the street or in the next town or in the next state. You're also giving them the confidence to stand up for themselves. And by raising your standards and holding firm to your standards, you're encouraging and respecting and allowing all other dance studios and all other dance teachers to rise as well and to stand up for themselves so that universally we can start changing this mindset about, the starving artist or the arts not being important or the arts not being underfunded. Not that those aren't realities, but we have to do something to create that shift within our own communities and within ourselves first. So that's what I want you to think about if you're having trouble standing up for yourself and you feel like you want to cave. All right, another couple points here. So I totally understand that student retention is important, especially right now. We need the income in our studios. So if you can, or if you want to be flexible for a certain circumstance with a certain set of students, and you can offer a scholarship or a work study or some sort of flexibility, if you can offer that and you want to offer that, then of course go for it. But here's the other thing, right? Is that if you can do it without feeling resentful, then you should do it. But if there's something in your head or in your gut that's saying, a month into this, 3 months into this, there's going to be something that comes back and is going to make it hard for me to accept this, then that's your clue that it's not a go. It's not a good decision. And, there's also the reality that you shouldn't offer it if you're not also prepared to offer the same offer to other students, because we all know that word gets around in a studio, right? And other people will come to you and they will ask. So you have to be prepared to, again, stand firm with whatever your choice may be. Okay, this is what I was talking about just a moment ago about kind of this mindset around the starving artist. Really, so much of this in the arts culture boils down to a lack mindset, right? So we want to be confident in ourselves, we want to know our value, and we want to release any of those thoughts and beliefs that hold us back from success, whether it's that you'll never have enough students or that nobody will ever pay you what you want, right? We want to replace those thoughts with more empowering ones. Like, I am paid well for the work that I love. The perfect students always find me, right? That's such a dramatic shift in thinking that can really help you if you practice it over the long run, kind of become more confident in yourself and release those limiting self beliefs that you might have about your value or your studio or your worth. So, there are my tips for you in a nutshell. If you want to go see more about these tips, then make sure you're following me over on Instagram and Facebook. The handle is at Diff Drum Dance. And I hope this was helpful. Make sure you follow if you're over on YouTube, subscribe, drop me a comment, let me know what your big aha moments were. And I hope to continue this conversation with you more soon. Take care. Bye.